All right, we are going to jump into Plan B tonight. We've covered most of the problem solving, and we're going to get down to the actual nuts and bolts, step-by-step process of Plan B tonight. How to problem solve with your kids. We're going to do a little bit of review with the plans A and C and the philosophy. But so far, this is what we covered with collaborative problem solving. We've covered the hard parts, which are changing our thinking. Getting ourselves out of some of those deep grooves of our brain that are just so easy to jump into. The judgments, the reactions, the stress triggers, those sorts of things, and learning to think differently. Last week we spent the whole time becoming experts at assessing lagging skills and figuring out how that works and how to put some language around this for the purpose of those skills of getting better for our kids. And tonight what we're going to do is introduce the new skills through problem solving. So when the skills are missing, we are going to get a dose of those skills every time we do Plan B with our kids. This is an incremental approach. This is not a do this on your kid and they will mind. Think about this as like a rehabilitative process. You know, when you have a serious injury, and like I had a friend who I think he had a shoulder that was rebuilt or something like that, and it was totally destroyed. And they don't say, okay, now make your arm go all the way up here, the first day, right? They do just a little bit of movement, then a little bit more movement, and a little more movement. So we're going to look at this as a rehabilitative process with our kids. Little doses of flexibility, little doses of emotional regulation, little doses of all of those skills that might be missing for our kiddos. Before we jump into that, though, as people are trickling in, I wanted to throw this out there since we've covered these all rather quickly. Any questions or thoughts, comments specific to the philosophy of kids do well if they can? Anyone find this challenging? Anyone find this refreshing? Does this feel like, this just makes sense? Or is this something that's kind of new? Any thoughts on kids do well if they can?
I think it's a game changer for perspective.
Yes.
Patience, compassion.
Sure. Game changer, I like that. It really does, doesn't it? And when we're looking at how to change things with our kids, this goes back to kind of cognitive behavioral science in a lot of ways, that we change our thinking and we change our actions. We change what we do. Our actions and our thoughts are very, very connected. Nice, thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Yes?
I think I find for the most part since this class started, I'm reflecting to my past childhood.
Yes.
Up through here.
Okay.
Like I said last week, I'm finding it kind of hard to put it into practice. It's happening slowly, but I'm finding more so my wife and I are looking at our past, putting the pieces together.
Yes.
And then together we're actually trying to communicate more one to another.
Yes.
And then having each other's back when communicating with the kids.
Nice. So it sounds like you're getting a little more on the same page with each other.
That's exactly what's happening.
Awesome. Some common ground. Fantastic. Which is really important, because we do, when we started looking at that whole, our roots and our branches and our attachment styles, and realizing that if we're two people coming together to parent a kid, we have all of that stuff with us. And it's not a small thing to get on the same page. So good for you guys for really talking about it, digging in, and you've got a paradigm now to sort through this with. So fantastic. All right, any other thoughts about philosophy? Yes?
You'll never look at a kid again and think that they're a bad kid.
There you go. Did you guys hear that? You'll never again look at a kid and think there's a bad kid. What would we say instead?
You could probably learn a few skills.
There you go. Because we're not going to be dismissive of these things that we see, because they're challenging, they're tough. But we say, here's where you are. I get it now. I get why this may be tough for you, and let's get these skills building. Let's get them better. Very good. Any thoughts about the lagging skills from last week? Did anyone go home over this past week and see some lagging skills in action? What do you think? See some head nods? What did we see? What do you think, Jack?
Well, like my stepson's got ODD like
Yeah.
hardcore, so
Mhm.
like last week definitely helped me put into perspective a lot more of his behavior.
Sure.
So over this past week, it's been a little bit, not a lot easier, but a little bit easier
Mhm.
to look at him and be like, okay, well, I know now why that's happened.
Awesome. Jack, I thank you for sharing that. If it was that didn't hear, Jack was talking about an ODD diagnosis. You know what that is, oppositional defiant disorder. It's a big technical DSM-5 category that says kids can be really challenging and irritating and frustrating, but it doesn't really tell you why. It just says it's a repetitive pattern of negative and hostile interactions with adults. But these lagging skills, you're right. This tells you more of the why. It's not just here's a label. It's here's why stuff is hard for this kid.
Big help, especially over the last week. You know, like I'm hoping, like as I'm able to like pin him more, like
Mm-hmm.
he'll be a little bit easier and easier to
Nice.
talk to.
Yes.
Know why he behaves the way he behaves.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack. Awesome. Yeah, thoughts? Yes.
Does it mean something more if they're like missing a whole category? You know what I mean? If you, instead of just, here's a skill, there's a skill, but like, I could check every skill in that.
Oh, sure. Yes. Yeah, and you'll see those clusters sometimes. I mean, sometimes, parents talk about it, lighting up that skills checklist like a Christmas tree. It's like lights everywhere, right? But sometimes, yeah, if you notice, was there one in specific you were noticing? Or
Just that flexibility.
flexibility,
Yeah.
sure. And there are certain personality types, certain diagnoses, certain life experiences that would contribute to a person having difficulty with flexibility. But if you can put that name on it, if you can put this is a go with the flow thing, you're going to start getting a little more predictive, and you can see these things coming. And when you're in the middle of it and you're feeling really triggered, you can say, oh, this is that thing. This is that lagging flexibility skill. And I think it just gives you that chance to take a breath, get your lid to come back down a little bit, and get proactive with the kiddo. So, yeah, some of these will. And, Dr. Green that came up with this is one of those who is really anti-labels, anti-diagnoses, because his whole idea is that, diagnoses are just, it's a name, but it doesn't tell you what to do with it. Whereas flexibility, it's like we can work on some flexibility. Even, depression or emotional regulation skills, if you can look at even more of the specifics around those, you can get a little more descriptive than just they're depressed or just they're anxious. It's like, what does that look like? Where, how does it come into play for that person? So I do appreciate his effort to help us as parents become a little more skilled in the nuances of these things beyond just a label. But yeah, for sure, you'll see some of those things clustered together. Any other thoughts about lagging skills? Yes.
Yeah, we actually pass on a lot of our trauma to our children,
Mm-hmm.
whether we intend to or not,
Sure.
just because they are such sponges and they will mimic our behaviors.
Yes.
We'll see how we react in a certain situation
Mm-hmm.
to take on that same behavioral pattern.
Absolutely.
You know, it's hard sometimes. You can recognize for yourself where you develop that way of being
Mm-hmm.
in whatever the situation may be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when you can identify that, it really helps to understand, the lagging skills may not actually be the kids lagging any skills. Maybe the parents are entirely lacking skills,
Sure.
and the kid's just copying.
Which would be a reason why they might miss that skill, is because this is what was passed on. This is just kind of how we did things. And yeah, you're right. And a lot of times when we've done this group a little bit more extensively, we have a whole 8-week group that we do just on collaborative problem solving here in town. And a lot of times parents will find these matching lagging skills. Like if you have some inflexibility and inflexibility together, that's a really good recipe for power struggle, or if you have emotional regulation and emotional regulation together, that can really come into it. So yeah, absolutely right, Alex. Knowing yourself, taking that time, that's why we spend the first, 4 or 5 weeks just on knowing ourselves and how all this works out. Yes?
We're dealing with one of four.
Mhm.
But anyway, a teenager that is defiant
Mm-hmm.
and very headstrong, strong-willed,
Mm-hmm.
actually wants to be an attorney, and she
Nice.
argues like one. So it's been pretty tricky for us because it's
Mhm.
extremely provoking.
Sure.
And one of the tricks that we noticed is not getting sucked into
Mm.
the drama.
Mm-hmm.
So actually staying on the outside of it
Mm-hmm.
when we feel ourselves ramping.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an incident that happened yesterday that could have potentially sucked us in because she was very kicked back
Yeah.
and very uncaring about the things she was just deliberately saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty impressed with my husband. He kept cool and stayed on the
Nice.
outside. And then when he started to engage and he went, oh, okay, no. And then he just shut the door, literally shut the door on himself and me. And he was like, come on, babe. And he grabbed my hand and we went walking.
Nice.
And we didn't come back for about 45 minutes. We just went on a walk
Mm-hmm.
and it ended it.
Got yourself regulated?
It
Nice.
was huge.
Awesome.
Get sucked in.
Fantastic. Well done. Yeah. Well, that's so. In addition to that being a great retirement plan for you guys to have a kid as an attorney, I think that's real. I think sometimes any attorneys in the room. Yeah. Going towards it, okay. So there's that that tactic of sometimes, and maybe it's just from watching attorney movies where they want to get the person like emotional, so they make a mistake. So that regulation, getting yourself calm, getting yourself regulated, it keeps you out of that drama circle, and it gives you a better, more clear space to think. But also, as the more regulated you get, they can borrow more of that calm from you to get through things. So. Excellent. Any thoughts about plans A or C from last week? Anyone remember plan A is what? My way or the highway. This is you enforcing your will upon a child. This is you're kind of forcing them to do what you would like for them to do. Plan C, remember what that one is? Yes, it's the choose your battles. It's we're going to set this expectation aside for now, because we got other stuff to deal with. This is a prioritizing of your problems. Anyone have any thoughts, questions about plans A or C before we jump into the nuts and bolts of plan B? Yes.
I have a question.
Mhm.
What do you do when, like, my daughter's only 5 months old, so there's not a whole lot of problems for her other than cuteness and
Yeah.
her yelling during church, but that's her just talking.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when the other parent is not engaged at all
Mhm.
and does not care to engage, but
Mhm.
he has this power trip on, oh, this is my daughter.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it this way. This is what I want for her, but yet he has no interest of parenting her, getting to know her,
Yeah.
engaging with her, visiting with her, nothing. And it's just like, it's more of a, this is a prize instead of this is my child, and you just want to literally take him and just,
Yeah, that sounds really frustrating.
but
That
you don't know what to
yeah.
do because you are more mature and you know that the right thing to do is not engage, but you have to engage at some point, whether it be with
Sure.
him or his parents, because, well, you guys have created a baby together.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So the question is, what do we do when we're trying our best to connect with our children, and the other people who are important to the kid's life are not maybe engaging like we would like? This happens with partners sometimes, but this also happens like sometimes with extended family, grandparents, aunts and uncles, very well-meaning. Well, this kid just needs or just, not maybe attending the way you would hope that they would. I would love to say there's a magic trick to make people do things the way you would like for them to do them. But what it comes down to really is all we can really control is ourselves and our own interactions with our kids, and do the best that we can when we're with our kids to give them that great experience that we would hope that they would have. Now, this plan B stuff, and it brings up a good point in that when we make a choice to look at kids do well if they can, and we look at a choice to assess lagging skills, and we're making a choice to do this Plan B collaborative process with our kids, a lot of times parents will say, but wait a minute, we're just setting our kids up to like negotiate everything, and not everything's negotiable. And you're right. And they say, well, what happens when we go to school? We're doing all this great Plan A or Plan B, and then we go to school and they get hit with Plan A left and right. Or they go to their job and they get hit with Plan A left or right. And I've had parents very passionately say, are we setting our kids up for failure by thinking that everything is up for grabs or negotiable? And kind of when I've sat at the feet of Ross Green and those guys, and they talk about this sort of thing in the trainings and their lectures, their answer for this is when we are doing our best to attach with our kids and connect with our kids and do this problem-solving process, we're going to give them more resiliency, more emotional intelligence, more capability to handle those Plan A situations that will come their way. Because they're not going to negotiate with the police officer that's pulling them over, or the boss that has the ability to fire them, or the teacher that might give them an F on the assignment. But what it will do, and we'll really see this tonight, is it's going to create a child who's got the ability to take the perspective of others. And when they're hitting that Plan A, they're going to say, wow, I wonder what's going on for that person. There must be a really good reason why my teacher is asking for this. There must be a really good reason why my boss is asking this. And they can also look into, well, and what's my concern too? Can I work with this person from a place of empathy, from a place of awareness? And I think you've got a win-win there for these kiddos, because you can't control how other people are going to interact with them, but we can give them the skills to be able to cope with these tough situations that may come their way. So Plan A, anyone notice Plan A's this week? Find themselves in the midst of a Plan A?
Snow and put your coat on.
There you go. Plan C's, anybody notice, feel like they wanted to try a Plan C?
You can leave your coat in the house, but I don't think you'll enjoy yourself outside.
There you go. That's a Plan C, isn't it?
Plan C this week
Mm-hmm.
with the guardian of my daughter. She does a lot of things that I don't agree with, such as having the dad there all the time, leaving him he's not supposed to be there. Girly in the court says no, but she still does it. And I texted her, and I'm just like, I understand what you're trying to do, and I get it. He needs help, whatever. But what I don't like, I didn't tell her that I'm not okay with it, and I did tell her I'm not okay with it, but I didn't say, okay, well, you have to get him out of there or I'm going to do this. I said simply, it's your choice, it's your house. But just know that you're putting your grandchild at risk for unhealthy situations, and I'm not okay with it, and there's not much I can do because it's your house, but this is what I don't like.
We'll avoid the struggle for now. We may have to come back and revisit this, right? So remember, Plan C's are when we have the ability to be flexible and we can prioritize and say, we're not going to jump through this giant hoop right now. We will eventually, but right now we're not. Plan A is when it's got to happen, whether it's a safety issue, safety concern, or your values in the situation are high enough that you say, this is my way or the highway is going to have to be the way it is. And I want you to think, so that prioritize word is a big one. And when we start doing Plan B with our kiddos, you can't do it all the time. It does take a lot of time, doesn't it? We talked about that last week. And if you try to do Plan B for everything, you will wear yourselves out. Especially when you're first starting. So having some healthy doses of, I'm going to have to Plan A some things, because I just have to. I'm not quite there with my Plan B skills, or I'm just drawing the line here. Plan C is going to become kind of your new friend in some ways, and it's going to give you kind of an escape route to not have everything be a power struggle if everything is a power struggle right now. It's going to let you take some of the heat and the intensity off of those moments to be able to say, hey, we're going to let this one slide for now. We're going to come back to it later. So don't use it for everything. Use Plan A when it's needed. But honestly, I mentioned this just kind of in passing and right as we were ending last week. If you are asking your kid hey, it's cold, it's snowing, go put your coat on, and the kid goes and puts the coat on, that's just fine. That's not even plan A. Because you're not having to impose your will on the child. You asked them to do something and they did it. That's just called parenting. It's great. And when it happens, it's golden and you feel so awesome. And it's, so don't feel like, that I'm saying don't ever ask your kids to do stuff. You need to. You need to ask your kids to do things. You need to have values. You need to have expectations. When they're doing it, great. When you're putting those expectations out there and you get some kickback, that's when you decide, is this a plan A moment, plan B moment, plan C moment? So what I want you to do is just for the next couple of minutes here, activity 11 on page 33 in your workbook, I just want you to think for a few minutes just about prioritizing your problems to be solved. And we'll kind of hit these throughout the night, but there's 3 columns there. And this is kind of from in last week's packet there, plan A, B, and C. So write down some things that you feel like are plan A problems, the my way or the highway. It's safety issue, it's a value issue. These are things you will go into a power struggle with if you need to because it's that important to you. Also think about some plan C problems. Are there some things you can let slide for right now? Have other fish to fry, so to speak, so that you can deal with some other things. And are there some plan B problems? What are the things you really want to dig into with your kids? What are some things where you want to get some solutions, want to get some lasting sorts of things? So take a minute there and just jot a few of those down if you would. And I really want you to think about these two. We're going to do a few more exercises tonight on your some of your plan B, your goals for plan B, some things you'd like to work on with your kiddos. But I want to kind of recap just a little bit about plan B and working together. This problem-solving approach, we're working to find mutually satisfactory solutions through the means of communicating, collaborating with our kids. We are pulling them into a partnership. We are inviting them to a platform to be able to gain more insight for themselves. They're going to get to know themselves better through doing Plan B. They're going to get to understand why this is so frustrating, why this is so hard, what's going on for them. And they're also going to get some understanding of the other. What's this problem look like from your perspective? So we're going to mutually work together to come up with real, doable solutions that are sustainable, we can continue to do them, and that they're actually meeting both sets of concerns. When we do this collaboration with our kids, we talked last week about how Plan A and Plan C meet some goals, but not all goals, and Plan B, what we're doing, if we're doing this well, we're going to reduce the likelihood of explosive behaviors. In the moment, this is going to happen because we're going to come into this with a lid that's not flipped. This is not lecture time, and this is not letting yourself vent on your child because you're so frustrated. This is a planned, calm approach to really look at the difficulty going on with your kid. So we're gonna reduce it in the moment by having a plan, having a step-by-step process so we don't feel like we're winging it and trying to just do the best we can and make something up in the moment. We're going to know the steps of the process. But we're also going to reduce the likelihood of explosive behaviors because we are going to proactively solve a problem. This has been a problem for this long. Bedtime, homework, fighting, whatever it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to project a solution that is they're going to be able to attempt in the future so that it doesn't turn into this power struggle again, or it doesn't turn into this big conflict with you or someone else. So we're going to have a plan for our kids to actually be able to try. And the cool thing is when we're doing this well and we invite them into the process, they are a lot more likely to try a solution that they've had a hand in creating. They've got some buy-in. They've got some skin in the game. This isn't just dad saying, hey, do this, or mom saying, hey, you better do that. This is actually their idea of how to fix this. So we're also going to train some new skills for our kids just by doing the collaboration process. And we'll talk about that a little more later tonight. And we're also going to get our expectations met. because we're going to put them right out there on the table and say, this is what I expect. And we're also going to hear the kids' concern. And the magical part of this is we're going to teach kids to become critical thinkers. And we're going to teach them to become people who are perspective takers and say, okay, here's my solution for this bedtime thing. And we're going to look at both sides. Does this meet my concerns as a parent? Does this meet your concerns? Can we really do this? And we're going to help them build some skills in that. And we're going to get our expectations met as the adults. But there's a few other things that I didn't mention last week. And this is kind of outside of maybe the canon of collaborative problem solving, but this is me looking at all the pieces of everything we've talked about so far. When we're doing the collaboration with our kids, this is going to build a positive attachment narrative for our kids. Remember, weeks ago we talked about attachment and how important it is. This is kids getting their needs met, kids being heard, kids having a relationship experience with their grown-up. And the narrative that they tell themselves is going to be, when I have problems, who do I go to? My grown-ups that listen to me and help me fix this stuff. They're going to have this attachment experience of, when I have difficulties, I can work through things with people I relate to closely. This is going to build secure attachment in your kids just by doing this problem-solving process with them. It says that you care, you value, you're present with the kids. This is also going to promote brain regulation. Upstairs, downstairs, left and right. When we are calm, when we're rational, we are going to help build some connection between the emotional brain, because kids feel a lot with the problems that they're having, the difficulties that are going on. And instead of just getting stuck in that downstairs fight or flight brain, we're going to build some connections up to the frontal lobe, into the logic and into the problem-solving areas of the kid's frontal lobe. Every time you walk with them through the process, I've got a problem, to I've got a solution that we're going to try. It's like building highway between the limbic system and the downstairs brain and the upstairs brain. And that highway is something that you're going to be able to use again and again and again. So this is not lost on our kids. We're actually building brain infrastructure by doing this process. We're also demonstrating the values we want to see. If we want kids who are humble, who are generous, who are empathetic, who are leaders, who are problem solvers, we are going to demonstrate this. This is the service leadership part of it. We're going to lead by serving. We're going to get down into the trenches with our kids, and we're going to show them this is what humility looks like. You might think I have all the answers. I'm not sure I do. I want to come to you and talk about this. I've got my thoughts and my opinions on why this is happening, but I want to hear from your mouth. I'm going to humble myself and listen to you through this process. We're also going to demonstrate the generosity of time and attention. This is giving value to our children. That time that it takes to do this, it's a gift. And when you spend that time with your kids, and I've seen it happen where the kids just come up and give you this big hug afterwards, or you see that light in their eyes of like, wow, you really spent the time to listen, and you really spent the time to work with me through this, and I feel really close and really connected to you. So we're going to show them that we're being generous with our time and generous with our attention, and by doing that, we're showing our kids that they are valuable and that they are worth it. Say it's not your kids, if it's your partner you're doing this with, you're going to take the time to listen to each other. That shows value. That shows worth. If it's a neighbor, a coworker, whoever it is, when you take the time to, instead of just staying in that place of I know the answers and the place of judgment, we can go into the place of curiosity and problem solving. And it just really, but it takes time. But all of that time is valuable. And just to keep in mind also, when we're doing our plan B, if we are showing that we're calm, we're being logical, we're being rational, but we're also connected emotionally, we have our lids down, and we're letting them borrow our calm, as much as they're borrowing from us, If we can get into that space of you're not in trouble, I'm not getting on to you, we're not getting upset and frustrated, we're just being curious with ourselves and each other, that is the best possible place for learning to occur in the brain. They're not going to be flooded with cortisol, the stress hormones. They're not going to have a whole lot of adrenaline pumping through their system. Their little brains are just going to be like a sponge, ready to soak in the things that we want for them to learn. All right, so we're going to get to it. This is it. These are the steps. These 3 steps are the Ross Green's calling them actually ingredients now, because their steps make it sound kind of rigid. Like if we don't have good go with the flow skills, we might say, well, you got to do it the same way every time. But he looks at it more like ingredients. When we're doing Plan B, these are the 3 things that we want to be doing. The first step or the first ingredient is our listening step, our listening ingredient. This is what used to be called the empathy plus reassurance step. This starts with a neutral observation, something like, hey, I've noticed this going on. What's up? It's really important how we start this conversation, because how we start it is probably going to determine how we end it. If we start the conversation by saying, you are being so lazy and I don't know what your problem is and it's driving me nuts that you're not finishing your homework, where's that conversation going to go?
It's going to end bad.
Really badly, really quickly too. But if we make a neutral observation, hey, I've noticed that it's really been tough for you to get your homework done lately. I wonder what's up. It's neutral. I'm not putting a judgment on this is right or this is wrong. It's just the facts. This is what I see happening. Can you let me know what this is like for you? What's going on? What's important to you about this is a phrase I'll use a lot of times. Seems like there's something really important about this. Seems like there's something that's been really challenging for you about this. Something's been hard with this lately. What's up? What's up is a good, just one-liner sort of phrase. It just says, I don't know the answers, and I'm coming to you for them. I really want to hear what this is like on your perspective here. We're going to have to pay a lot of attention to things like our tone of voice, our facial expressions, our body language. A lot of people say that body language is about 85% of our communication. So if I'm coming to you and being really empathetic, and I'm towering over you, and I've got my arms crossed, I'm kind of grimacing and gritting my teeth and saying, "What's up?" That's communicating something to you, right? So my trick with empathy is I say you'll know you're doing empathy well when your kids keep talking to you. If you get a brick wall, a shutdown, get out of my space, that's a good sign to maybe alter the way we're trying to do our empathy. Some of this is like active listening sorts of things where you're trying to kind of summarize. For our little ones, sometimes even just repeating back what they say is enough to keep the ball rolling. I'm so mad. You're really mad. Yeah, Billy hit me with a block. Billy hit you with a block. Yeah, and he did it yesterday too. You did it yesterday. And they just kind of keep going. If you try that with your adolescents and teenagers, you're going to get a brick wall shutdown. Man,
Doesn't they just think that you're being sarcastic?
Well, and they might say, why are you talking like a counselor? Why are you, what aliens abducted you? And it's my parents' body, but I don't. So it's like if you try that same strategy, I'm having a lot of trouble with my boyfriend. You're having a lot of trouble with your boyfriend. You gotta adjust. So you might do something like paraphrase and summarize. And just keep, do a lot of the, keep the eye contact comfortable for your kids. Meaning if they appreciate the eye contact, it lets them know that you're zeroed in, good. If your kiddos are ones that can't handle eye contact, don't demand it of them. When you're doing this problem solving thing, you want them to be comfortable and not triggered. So kind of meet them where they are. I had a mom, one of the first groups that we did, that she was trying this Plan B thing with her kid, and it was just failing again and again. She's like, I just can't get the empathy step down. We're trying to figure out what the kid's concerns are, and they just won't talk. And I said, well, what if we shift this and just do plan B about doing plan B? Wow, looks like every time we try to sit down and do this problem solving thing, it's not happening for us. I wonder what's up. And he talked about, he's like, well, you're trying to get me to look right at you, and you're getting right at my face, and I just can't. It hurts when I had that kind of eye contact. I just can't handle it. And so she exercised some go with the flow skills, some flexibility, and she said, well, what if we try this back to back? And for this kid, it really worked, because it took the pressure off enough where he could actually talk through some of those things. So our goal of this step is really digging down deep beneath the surface level of the behavior to the child's concern. With every problematic behavior that you see, there is some kind of concern for that child underneath the surface. They may not know what it is. You may not know what it is. And this is why this empathy thing is so important, is because we're working together and we're giving this child an opportunity to do something that maybe they've never tried before, which is, I know that I feel really, really mad. I don't always know why. And we're going to create this really safe space where they can dig into their hearts and kind of figure out what it is that's going on for them. So, how we do the empathy is really, really important. I've got a little video here really quickly to show you about empathy from Brené Brown. Some of you might have seen this one, but I think she really encapsulates the idea of empathy really well. This.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
That's what we're shooting for, right? Connection with our kids. So that's the first step. Listen. We've got a problem. We're going to go to the kids. Say, I've noticed this going on. Can you tell me a little about this? Can you tell me what's going on through your eyes? Once we have, yes.
So if your child's lid is flipped.
Yes.
Do you start this right away? Is this part of the connection to get them to calm down? Or is that you need to connect and then start? number one.
I would say that's like probably extreme sports plan B. If we're doing it in the moment, it's tough. You might want to do some of the other stuff first to get the lid back down. This is where we do the connect to redirect, the engage, don't enrage, the taking a break, the giving the space, those sorts of things. Because you're right, if you're trying to do plan B and your kid's lid's flipped, it's going to be a tough process, because even accessing the language to explain what their concern is, that's trapped up here, and it's offline. So yeah, we want to have some semblance of this. You might try doing the empathy when a kid's lid's flipped to kind of help with that connection to the emotion. Looks like you're really frustrated. I mean, even if it's in that moment and you notice lid starting to flip while you're doing the plan B, an empathic statement might be something along the lines of, this looks like it might even be too tough for us to talk about right now. I wonder if we should talk about this at a different time. That's empathy. It's saying, this is what I see. What I see is that this is so hard, and me asking you even to continue in this may be too much for you right now, and I get that. Sometimes parents, when they even try that sort of approach, that's enough to bring the lid back down. It's like, oh, they feel me. They see what's going on, and they're like, no, I think I can keep going. But other kids are like, okay, yeah, I'm need some space. I'm done here for now.
You have a teenager that's like, nope, we need to talk about it right now.
Yeah, and well, there's that empathy too. About maybe I'm not in the best space to talk about this right now. Maybe I need a timeout and some break to be able to do that as well. So being sensitive to the moment is really important with the empathy, and it's okay. That's why they're ingredients. You can give a little bit of this now, and you might come back to another ingredient after a little while, but you might go through all of them also. So when do you stop with the empathy is a good question a lot of people ask sometimes, and because you're digging and you're digging and you're digging, and it's like, well, where do we stop? A good place to stop is when you feel like they're telling you something that's solvable. If it's the homework thing, and they're like, I keep losing my binder because I'm really disorganized and I don't have the stuff written down, that's a solvable problem. So you might want to stop there. Oh, I see. This is what's going on. This is why that homework thing has been tough for you. Or if it's, I'm feeling really like rejected by my peers right now, and I'm feeling really bad about myself. I'm feeling just really depressed, and it's hard to want to go to school sometimes. That's a tough one to solve, but we're getting somewhere with that. So keep digging with your empathy until you feel like you've got a kid's concern on the table. What's their concern? Why is this such a big deal for them? Once you have that, you're ready to go to step 2. This is the describe step. So you have listen, then describe. Ross Green also called this the define the problem step. This is looking at both perspectives. This is a pretty short step. This is, you've got their concern on the table, and you just put yours next to it. So you're really concerned about this. You're really worried about your homework. You're feeling really disorganized. I'm really worried about you falling so far behind that it's tough to get caught up. I'm really concerned about you passing this grade. I'm really concerned about you putting your all into what you do. It's whatever's valuable to you about this problem. Why are you talking about it in the first place? So here's your concern. Here's my concern. Perspective taking. The cool thing about this step is that you don't have to agree. You may think that their concern is ridiculous, and they might think yours is ridiculous also. But that doesn't change the fact that we're hearing each other. And even sometimes when we think that another person's concern is ridiculous, it's an exercise in empathy to hear it, to try to see the world through their eyes. They're going to get a little dose of empathy and perspective taking by being able to do this. And what a skill. To be able to see someone else's point of view, even a point of view you don't agree with, to be able to take the time and space. And this is part of the rhythms of Plan B, is that kids start getting that expectancy that this is going to happen. There's the part where they listen to me, and then there's the part where I listen to them. And I've had some kids that I've worked with that have gotten so savvy that they jump right into this. They say, okay, that's my concern. Now, Mom, what's your concern? And they'll start using some of that language, and it's kind of cool to see. And that you see that building of other people are valuable. Other people's perspectives are their own. And we practice listening to the other side. So it's real quick. You're concerned about this. I'm concerned about that. And then we jump into step 3, which is the brainstorm or the invitation. This is where things take a little bit of a different track with a lot, from a lot of the traditional kind of parenting approaches. Because a lot of times we'll do some listening and we'll do some asking, and then we'll tell them what they're supposed to do to fix it, right? Because we're really smart and we're grown-ups and we have fully functioning frontal lobes, and that's just what we do. We're good at it. This is where you exercise some restraint. When we do this for 8 weeks, this is the skill that is probably the hardest of any of these skills to learn, is resisting the urge to give solutions. Usually that urge starts back in empathy, right? When our kids are talking about their concerns and we want to say, well, all you have to do is fill in the blank. What that does is it shuts down the empathy process, right? And it says, I'm really smart because I'm a grown-up and I'll just tell you all the things you have to do, and you just do them and everything will be fine. What we want is kids who develop the ability to problem solve, develop the ability to generate solutions, to think critically, to think empathetically, to think logically, to think predictively. If I try this, what is the possible consequence of giving this a shot? So we want to create a space where we invite the child into the problem-solving process. And it can be as simple as, what do you think we could do to fix this? You're concerned about this. I'm concerned about this. What do you think we could do to fix this? Yes?
Well, I'm actually going through that with my son. He has really hard time with homework.
Yeah.
He's 7, and so I asked him, what is your, what can you do to make you want to do your homework?
Mm-hmm.
And he said he doesn't know. He
Yeah.
doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I Pinterest ways to do sight words.
Mm-hmm.
And we made this craft thing into his board, and now he wants to do it.
Nice. Awesome. Great solution. Well,
He really helped me with that solution.
fantastic. And you valued him by asking him. And that's it's such a good point, because so many of the times our kids, they don't know the solution. They don't know how to fix it. But if we don't ever ask them, then they'll just get used to other people fixing things for them. What I want for my kids and for other people's kids is kids who get better and better at that. And they don't ever get better until they practice, until they try, till there's that expectancy that they listen to me, I listen to them, and then they ask me what I think I can do. And a lot of times you get an I don't know from your kids, especially when you're first starting out. Because if they knew, they would probably be doing it already. They would be doing well if they could, right? But so we want to let the brain stretch and let them build some new activities. We're gonna slow this all down, and we're gonna make it a safe place where they can try and fail, right? We're gonna give it a try. As long as it meets both concerns, meets your concern, meets my concern, let's give this a try and see what happens. So what do you think we can do to fix this? Invite the child. And a really cool thing happens at this point also, in the identity of the child. Especially kids who are used to getting in trouble a lot. Kids who are used to being told no, being corrected, being all of those things happening again and again and again. That whole give a dog a name and he'll answer to it eventually. That maybe I am no good, maybe I am lazy, worthless, whatever it is, and I keep causing problems for my family. That wears on the identity of a child after a while. What we're doing is we're shifting fundamentally the identity of the kid from being the problem maker to being the problem solver. All of a sudden, they're coming up with ideas that might make life a little better for them and possibly for other people in the family, other people in the school, and they become this proactive, creative force that's trying to do good around them, and you see this kind of real encouragement that happens. The word encourage means build courage, right? That you are building the courage to try things that they haven't done before. But you got to give them the space. So you invite. just like you did back there. What do you think we can do to fix this? If they can't come up with anything, we don't just leave them there. That was a great idea to go on Pinterest. I usually frame it something along the lines of, if they just really can't come up with any solutions, I just say, it's okay if I bounce a few off of you. It's okay if I throw some ideas out there and see what we think, see if these really meet both of our concerns. And I can still say this, but I've yet to have a kid that I'm doing collaborative problem solving with, that after I've gone through all of the empathy, all of the perspective taking, and then valued their input, that when I offer to give solutions, that they don't take me up on it. Usually they're feeling so connected at that point, and they're ready for a rescue. They're ready for you to step in with your awesome frontal lobe and come up with some cool solutions that they can try. But you build the rhythms in it. That this is what we do. Is we want you to be a part of this problem-solving process. So what this is going to do skill-wise is the empathy part is very regulating and grounding. We're going to get the brain calm, cool, and ready to problem solve just by doing the emotional regulation, the empathy piece. This is showing kids what it feels like when you have your emotions under control and you're trying to work through problems with somebody. This is building some emotional regulation skills, helping them see what it feels like and give them kind of some training wheels on it. And you're building a relationship with your kid as you do it. The define the problem is all about teaching perspective taking. So especially for our inflexible, not go with the flow sort of kids, the world is very black and white, all or nothing. Kids who typically only see their perspective, kids who maybe lack some empathy and lack some understanding that other people have things going on for them as well. This builds that process of perspective taking for the child. And even if they're not good at it at first, this is rehabilitation, a little bit at a time. Every time you do Plan B with your kid, you're giving them a dose of what it's like to do this perspective taking thing. And the third part, invitation, this is about, we want to get some resolution here. So they're going to build skills, changing the child's role to the problem solver rather than problem maker. And honestly, this is stimulating new neural growth. This is actually in the brain giving an opportunity for new neural pathways to form. Right? What fires together, wires together, and survives together. Every time you do this process, and they are stretching their brains and they say, here's the problem, here's the parts, here's what we do to try to fix it, that is building those really, really important connections in the brain. Yeah.
As with what you just said, though, it's like with any skill, if you don't continue to develop it, then you don't continue to grow, and it just dissipates when you get back and do it different.
Absolutely. So this is something that you do have to practice a lot. You're probably not going to see a whole lot of behavioral change maybe the first 10, 20, dare I say 50 times you do this. It grows, though, every time. And every time you do this, you're building that pattern for the kid. And the practice of it is what makes things better. Not just for your kids, but for you also. Now, there's a really interesting research study they did back in the early days of collaborative problem solving. It's actually with kids with ODD, with oppositional defiant disorder. What they did was they did two groups. One that was like a traditional kind of parenting training program, and one that was this collaborative problem solving, where they really dug deep on the Plan B, and the parents and the kids got the process down. They were doing it a lot, processing it week by week, practice. So what they found was, I'm going to draw this arc here. With both of the studies, they both, things got better. It's like represents like improvement. So there wasn't a whole lot of difference at the end of the study between collaborative problem solving and the traditional parenting model that they did. But what was really interesting was, so the traditional group, they studied it again like a month later and 6 months, and there was kind of this downward trend with anything. We get really fired up about learning something new and we try it, and then things kind of trail off after a while. What they found that was so remarkable about the collaborative problem solving was that it didn't take that typical arc. What they found was that things continued to get better and better and better. And so like at the 6-month mark, the kids and the parents were actually doing better than they were at the very end of the study, the very end of the parenting group. And what that tells me is that this is something that you can learn. This is something you can do. It's, the folks at Mass General Hospital and Harvard were the ones that kind of put this all together, but it's so accessible. Just doing these 3 steps with our kids is teachable. It's doable. It gives you kind of the roadmap, and parents learned it and kids learned it. And what this showed me was that they kept doing it more and more and more. So no longer were they dependent on their therapist to fix all their stuff for them, or the caseworker, or the teacher. The parents became really empowered, and we know what to do here. We can do this, and they became the experts on their own kids. Imagine that. I like that. So the last thing you do is once you do your step 1, step 2, step 3, you say, is this doable? Can we really do this solution? And if it's, buy me a new iPhone X and that'll solve all of my my organizational problems, you say, sure, yeah, it won't be nice for all of us, right? Not necessarily a doable solution. If it is, maybe I'll come hang out at your house a little more. I don't know, but it's got to be doable. We don't want to have something that's just totally outlandish, and that's going to help our kids with some of their logic and their thinking skills as well. So we're going to say, can we really do this? And then you're going to give it a try. Let's give this a try, and maybe talk about this again after a few days or a week or so, and see how this is going for us. Sometimes the solutions that they come up with will solve the problem. A lot of times it will not. Sometimes their skills are not quite up to their expectations for what they hope will solve the problem. It goes back to, next time I'll just not get mad. Which sounds great. If they could, they would already be doing that though. And a lot of times when parents are trying this out, they've come back to Corey, I'm trying this, and the solutions just don't seem to be fixing the problems for the kids right off the bat. This is where you kind of change some of the expectations and how we measure our success. Because this is way more than just about you getting your kids to do what you want them to do. What this is about is collaboration, attachment, building new skills. So I would say measure your success not by, did the solution actually fix the problem, but measure your success by, did I feel more connected with my child after this? Do they feel like they can trust me more after this? Are they becoming more of a critical thinker after this? Are they becoming more of a perspective taker after this? Which those things sometimes are way more important than they got their room clean, right? I mean, any kid can get their room clean eventually, but not every kid can take that time to actually become, problem solver or creative problem solver, someone who takes perspective and is empathetic towards others. So, it would be nice to say, I don't want to lie to you and say this is going to fix all the problems between you and your kid, and it's going to fix all that stuff that's irritating, but what it will do is create a paradigm, create a roadmap for that we can go to this. However old you are, whatever's going on, we can go back to this process because we know how to do it, we know how to work it together, and we feel close to each other after it's done, and eventually the solutions will come that are actually getting things a little better for you. So, warning, before you do your plan Bs with your kids, this is kind of some trial and error sort of stuff. A lot of times, if we haven't done our homework well, we don't always know what our concerns are. And how this plays out is a lot of times we say, we go into this great empathy with our kids, and we dig really deep, and we find out what their concern is. And then when it's our turn to say our concern, sometimes we don't even know what it is. And we fumble, and we falter in what we're doing. So what I recommend is do your homework before you do your plan B. Before you even sit down to problem solve with your kid, think about your concern. What is it? Why are you doing this? Is there something about the situation that's triggering you? Is there some trauma stuff that's going on for you? Is this an emotional trigger for you? Think about it. Is this my stuff? Is this my issue I'm bringing into this? Also, is the rule being broken appropriate to the current child in my current home? Meaning, for those of you who are looking at this in terms of like foster parenting or say families, the rules that you had for your kids may not match exactly with kids coming into your home who've experienced trauma, abuse, and neglect. You might have to shift up some of the rules a little bit. But this also may mean this rule was really appropriate when my kid was 7. Now that they're 15, maybe we need to adjust some of the rules here. Think about, is this rule appropriate for the kid in the home at that time? Also think about, what are the values or expectations that you have that are important to you? When you're thinking, I want to solve this thing about homework, about clean rooms, about fighting, about whatever it is, why is that important to you? This will give you some clues as to what your concerns are. You want to promote equity in your home. You want to promote safety in your home. You want kids who do the best with the opportunities that are given to them. We want, whatever it is, this is some self-exploration. So before you start with your kid, go back to yourself and can you make your concern understandable? Is it so like esoteric that the kids aren't even going to get it and connect with it? Can you translate it into 7-year-old speak? Can you translate it into what's important for the kiddo? Also, don't try to make the problem too broad. We want to solve really, really specific problems. If you say something like, "You're being aggressive, what's up?" Way, way, way too broad, right? They're not going to know what to say. They're not going to know what to do with that. So we want to solve as specific problems as possible. And if it's aggressive over time, and it's something that's happened a lot, go to one specific incident. You can't solve all of them, but maybe you can get some answers on one of those. So we go through this process of clarifying our problems with our kiddos. So here's another example. I've noticed you don't follow directions. What's up? What's a kid going to say to that? Yeah? I don't know. What do you mean? So what we want to do is we want to look at the W questions, right? When? When was the last time they had problems following directions? And I'm going to go through this with a specific problem with this kiddo, Andy, who was a foster kid. He had a lot of placements. He moved into a foster home and kept hiding food in his room. So the win for that is, most recently I asked you to keep food in the kitchen, and it didn't look like it was happening. Where? At home. Since you've been placed in this foster home, I've noticed this has been a difficult thing. I don't know if it's happening at school, but I do know it's happening here, and this is what we want to look at. With whom? Who is the problem with? Foster dad was the one that was usually doing the asking. Don't take food out of the kitchen. These are the rules. These are the expectations. And so I've noticed that's when it usually happened. And what are the special circumstances or anything around this problem that's unusual, that's different, that you want to bring to the table? So for this kiddo, it was they just moved into the new foster home. So that becomes, instead of, I've noticed you don't follow directions, what's up? It's, we're going to put all of that together, summarize it into, I've noticed a lot of times at home, when foster dad's asking you to keep food in the kitchen, it's been hard to follow through with what he's asking. What's up? Is that solvable? Is that something we can dig into with the kid? So what it's doing is it's putting their brain right back into that moment. It's helping give the context from what's going on. And if you ask a kid like that, I've noticed here, here, and here, I've noticed this is what's going on. What's up? It gives them something specific to kind of dig into.
Especially with kids with autism.
Sure. Absolutely. And that's why that empathy is so important, to see what the world looks like. So another one, I noticed you've been aggressive lately. What's up? So this is a kid that had pushed his sister at the playground. So instead of just like, what's up, you're aggressive, what's going on? It's, so when you were waiting in line for the slide and you thought someone took your turn, where? At the park, in line for the slide, with your little sister, who was the one who cut in line. The special circumstances, this day, there were a lot more kids at the park than usual. So we can go back to that space and time for that kiddo. We were at the park earlier and noticed you were in line for the slide, and it looked like you got so frustrated that you pushed your little sister. What was up? What was going on for you there? Gives them a little bit more to work with. So what I want you to do next is look there on page 36, activity 12, and I want you to take a little bit of practice with this. Think about one of your problems from your plan B column that you did earlier, something you want to plan B, and I want you to think about the specifics of what this looks like. See if we can make this problem a little bit more solvable here. Take just about a minute to see if you can get the what, where, and when. So this is like your adult homework before you do your plan Bs with your kiddos. Or your partner, or whoever it is that you're doing this with. Think about the specifics. Have a good, solid, neutral, non-judgmental way to start off this conversation. So once you've done that, then take some time to really think about your adult concerns. What are the adult concerns for that situation? Is there something specific? There's another activity on page 13 about activity 13 on page 37 about clarifying adult concerns. Might take a look at that if you have a minute, if you've already finished the other one. If not, you can do this at home at some point, but really looking at the why of the problem. Why is this an issue for you? Why do you want to solve this? All right. We ready to practice? You want ready to do some plan B? Think we can do this? What we got, about 5 minutes left? I bet you we could do a plan B in 5 minutes. You think we can? Let's give it a shot. So here's how this is going to work. This is called the collective parent exercise, and this is where you all get to share a consciousness and a brain, all the best of your own mental faculties you get to bring to the table right now. So this is kind of an improv kind of exercise here. So anyone can talk at any point while we're doing this. I may call a timeout, and I may do some kind of regrouping, but what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about a problem here, and you guys get to be my parent, okay? So we'll go through this, and someone will start it off, and we'll keep going until we get through all three of the steps. We're going to do our empathy, we're going to do our define the problem, then we're going to do an invitation. So this is Billy, who threw a major fit the last several times he was asked to do his chore of loading the dishes in the dishwasher. He was just fine last month when his chore was folding laundry. You know that he's able to help out around the house and think it's fair to change the chores around between family members. His behavior becomes completely unacceptable for you. So before we start, think about it, and we can start the collective parent process now. Does anything about Billy's behavior trigger feelings in you? Anyone feel triggered by Billy giving you...
Well, it could be the fact that, like, when he's folding laundry, it's clean. Putting dishes away in the dishwasher, they're dirty, so he could have a phobia.
Okay. Sure, we're starting to think a little creatively here, right? What might be going on for this kiddo? Anyone have any personal feelings about chores themselves?
I don't like doing the dishes either.
There you go. That's a trigger, right? So that's honest. I like that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Does anything trigger this? Does anyone feel trigger around feeling disrespected? I'm asking you to do this. It seems really simple. Why can't you do the simple thing that I'm asking you? Seems, and that goes back to kids do well if they want to, right? It has that flavor of that. If you could just do it. Is there a way that you could explain this behavior? Jack, you already talked a little bit about that. Any other possible explanations? Any lagging skill explanations? What do you think?
Well, if you didn't tell him that
we're gonna change the chores
Yep.
monthly.
What does it take to be able to do? There you go. Could be some flavors of flexibility. Don't know. We'll have to see. If it was a flexibility. What's that?
It's really hard to break the line.
Yes, it is. I bet it could be done, though.
Somebody could purposely be angry and dump a bunch of bleach in.
They could. What is our concern as a parent? Why do we want... Why is this an issue? Why is this a problem for us? What's important to us about our kid being able to do the dishes?
Take care of themselves when they get to the age where they're living by themselves or whatever.
Instead of ordering
Yeah.
pizza and having easy dinners.
Does that sound like a valid concern? I want my kid to be able to have the skills to be able to be successful in life. That is so very valid.
It's even more so teaching them to follow through.
Teaching them follow through. When you start something, it's good to finish what you start. These are like executive skills. These are social skills. There's a lot of stuff going on here for this kiddo. All right, let's do it. I was so nice. I put this script up there. So if you're feeling like you need some scaffolding here, you won't always have this when you're doing Plan Bs with your kids, but you will have something. So anyone want to start? So I'll be Billy. You guys be my parent.
Billy.
Yes.
The last time I asked you to load the dishwasher, you seemed kind of upset.
Am I in trouble?
No, I'm just trying to find out what's up. 'Cause you ran away the last time, so I just wanted to help you.
Did you guys see that reassurance right there? Ooh, that was good. That was really good. That I'm not saying you're in trouble. I just want to know what's going on for you. So you just want to know what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I hate doing the dishes.
Yeah, I see that you're concerned about that.
Yeah. It stinks.
Like,
Yeah. I don't like being having stuff thrown at me like that. It just really makes me feel mad. Can I go play now? Plan C. There, who said that? Yeah. Sure. Go ahead, Billy. Class dismissed. No. We could Plan C there, right? If it's too much, we could also Plan A. You get in there and you do those right now. What are we going to get from both of those? Either we're not going to get our expectation met, or we're probably going to get a power struggle. So okay. So yeah, I don't like it when you just throw this stuff at me all the time.
What do you think that we could do to use?
I don't know, Mom. I don't even know your concern yet. Sorry, it's so easy to jump steps, right? We want to. So, do we know what my concern is yet? Let's keep digging. Yeah,
And then
things
you
are.
don't like to do the dishes.
Well, I mean, I don't like to do the. I don't really like the laundry either. But at least when I was doing the laundry, I knew what I was supposed to do.
I see that you're concerned that you don't know how to load the dishwasher.
That's part of it, I guess. I mean, it's just there's all these like compartments and there's all this stuff and like I just get so confused and then I just get really distracted and I just wander off. It's not that I'm like, hate doing the dishes. I just get kind of overwhelmed.
Well, I don't like struggling and trying to argue with you about doing dishes all the time, but how about you come over here and help me and I'll show you how to do the dishwasher.
Are you trying to make this about you, Dad?
I'm trying to make it about us. Let's finish it together.
No, that's an honest response, and if I could handle it, and it worked, that would be just fine, Alex. I mean, to say, hey, let's come do this together. But what we want to try to see if we can get through these. So we do have a pretty good idea what my concern is. What is it? Someone could summarize it.
You're unsure about yourself on how to load the dish.
Sure. What skills does that sound like? What do you think? Yeah, some executive problems. I get distracted really easily, and I get overwhelmed by this process. So maybe even some emotional regulation piece there.
Motivation, potentially.
Lack
of incentive in the kid's mind. Maybe?
That's the motivation piece is probably I would tuck that into the executive skills too, because that's the ability to prolong gratification. I'm going to put this thing off, and if I can't even get through it because I'm so distracted, so someone like paraphrase my concern back to me, Billy. I'm concerned that.
Billy, I'm concerned that you don't know where to start when tackling the dishes.
Yeah.
You're getting a little overwhelmed. So.
Step 2.
Bam! Just do the plates first.
Are you trying to fix this for me? I'm gonna go play PlayStation now. we're gonna stick with step 2. Someone do step 2 for me. I hear.
I see that you are concerned about being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
About doing the dishes. And I'm concerned that if the dishes aren't done, we're not going to have anything to eat off of.
Oh. Okay. I mean, I guess that's. I might use paper plates, but. Oh wait, I'm jumping steps now. I'm waiting for someone to invite me. That was a great step 2, by the way.
What do you think we could do that could help with that?
Paper plates.
Oh, Billy, we need pans for Mom to cook dinner.
Oh, pans? Well, maybe we could just go get Little Caesars.
Oh, yeah.
Because it comes on that box, and then you can just throw it right out, and you're done. And we can all stand over the box. And
But our dishes are still dirty.
yeah. So here, with this step, I'm going to give you a little trick here with this too. That's an idea is a great phrase to say. You're not saying it's a good idea. You're not saying it's a bad idea. You're saying that's an idea. Can you think of any more? We're helping them learn how to brainstorm. Right? We're helping them learn how to come up with some ideas to fix this. So, there's Little Caesars thing or paper plates, but you're saying there's still pots. Could you just like do it with me, and then like maybe I don't know, at least for a little while?
That seems like a good idea.
Does this meet both concerns? Does this meet the parents' concern about getting dishes done so we have stuff? Does this meet my concern of not feeling so overwhelmed? Because I'm going to borrow a little bit of your frontal lobe and help me through this. So we've got a doable solution here, don't we? So next thing we want to do is what? Let's give it a try. Let's see how this works. Well, maybe we'll try this week and see if this works. But we may have, some of Jack's concern there also. It may be that we're really wanting this kid to learn some stuff for later in life. So we may decide, wow, this solution is working for now, but we might want to come back to this. And the great thing is, wow, it looks like that worked last month, and it looks like there's some other stuff I'd like to keep working on. What's up? What do you think's going on? And we're primed and ready. And they know the steps. They know the process of how to get through this step by step by step. So that's plan B, folks. Solution met. It's doable, sustainable. We've built relationship. We've built some skills. I'll let you take a look at the positive tips for yourself. It's just kind of some summaries of the things we're talking about. But give it a try. When things are calm is the best time to do this. Find a good spot. If you got a good meltdown, don't let it go to waste. Assess, see what's going on. Come back to it at a time when things are good and calm. Have a fantastic week. Happy plan being.